Welcome to this presentation. This is part 1 of the review for the quiz on January 24th. So we'll start with finding subjects and verbs and more, and then you'll find a second set of slides that are called Finding Fragments. Why are concepts such as subjects and verbs and prepositional phrases important? In college writing, you can't have fragments or run-ons. And understanding parts of speech is key to figuring out how to avoid these problems. Key points to remember: a sentence is a group of words that expresses a complete thought. A simple sentence consists of a single independent clause with one subject and one verb. Independent clause just means that the sentence can stand on its own. It doesn't need additional words. It's grammatically correct even if it's short. Here's an example. Chase plays baseball. Chase is the subject, plays is the verb. It's real important that you know how to identify the subject in the sentence. So the subject is who or what is being talked about in the sentence. A subject can be either a noun or a pronoun. Visitors went to the farm. In this case, visitors is the subject of the sentence. We're talking about who went to the farm. In the second sentence, the team members ate several boxes of chocolate. Again, this is about members. These are the people who were eating the boxes of chocolate. Another way to identify the subject is to ask who or what does the action. Sentences can have several subjects. Toys and memorabilia from the 1950s are high-priced collectibles, so our subjects there are toys and memorabilia. And in the second sentence, celebrity dolls, board games, and even cereal boxes from that decade line the shelves of antique stores. Note that the word in front of the subject serves to describe the subject. What type of doll? Celebrity dolls. What type of game? Board games is not considered part of the subject. In terms of verbs, in the first sentence, the verb is are. Let's underline that. And then in the second sentence, the verb is line. So line is an action verb in that sentence, and we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. I've copied a page from my instructor's manual that gives you the responses or the answers to practices 18.1 and 18.2. Let's take a look at 18.1. Here your job was to identify the subject in the sentence. So in number 1, you have Amazon.com is the subject. Number 2, Jeff Bezos is the subject. Number 3, business is the subject. So again, the subject is what the sentence is about. It's about the business, it's about Jeff Bezos, it's about Amazon.com. Let's have a look at practice 18.2. So here you also had to identify the subject but indicate whether it's a singular or plural word. Number 1, today tourists can have fun working on farms. So tourists is the subject. It's plural. Number 2, visitors came to farms just to pick fruits and vegetables. Again, the subject is about the sentence is about visitors. That's the subject of the sentence. Now, be careful that you don't think other nouns in the sentence, like fruits and vegetables. Those are not subjects. Those are nouns. Again, the subject is visitors. I noticed there was some confusion about that. Question number 3, some students identified farms as the subject, but then also indicated that mazes and zoos were subjects. But you just have one subject, and those other nouns are either objects or they fulfill a different function in the sentence. Okay, let's move on. Let's spend a few minutes talking about prepositions. On page 362 in your book, you have a list of frequently used prepositions. These are little words: about, above, before, behind, except, for, on, onto. They link nouns or pronouns to other words. That's what they do. The word or phrase that the preposition introduces is called the object of the preposition. Prepositions are used to indicate the time, space, or logical relationship of the object to the rest of the sentence. The book is on the table. So in this case, book is the subject of the sentence. It's also a noun, and it's connected to the table. On is our preposition that connects the two nouns. So it just shows us the relationship between the book and the table. She held the book over the table. She read the book during class. Note that the preposition locates the book in space or in time. So just think of these prepositions as being little words, not subjects, not verbs, that give additional information on the subject or a noun in the sentence. A few words about prepositional phrases. So a prepositional phrase, it begins with the preposition and it ends with the noun or pronoun that is the object. We left before the traffic started. Before is our preposition. The traffic is the object of the preposition. So these three words, the prepositional phrase. He wanted the best for her. For is a preposition, her is a pronoun. That's our prepositional phrase. Verbs do not go in prepositional phrases. You might see something like to explain and say, but that's a preposition and that's a verb. Why isn't that a prepositional phrase? That is called the infinitive of the verb, and it's different from a prepositional phrase. Here's the copy from the instructor's manual that shows the answers to the exercise on prepositions. So the important thing to do here is to cross out the prepositional phrase. So in number 1, the sentence is, in many American cities, cyclists are concerned about sharing the road with cars. The idea is to cross out the prepositional phrases that makes it easier to identify the subject. So in this first sentence, in is a preposition. In many American cities, that's a prepositional phrase. We cross that out. About is a preposition. About sharing the road is another prepositional phrase. With is a preposition, and with cars is a prepositional phrase. So there are actually 3 prepositional phrases in that sentence. And cyclist, that's the subject. Second sentence, for this reason, for, that should be your clue to realize that this is a prepositional phrase. For this reason, people are becoming more interested in. Here we have another preposition and prepositional phrase. So once you get rid of for this reason and in green lanes, we just have a few words left, and people is the subject of that sentence. So take a few minutes to check out the other sentence and to compare your responses. Verb equals action. Let's take a few minutes to talk about action verbs. So in this first sentence, lightning strikes. Strikes expresses an action. Lightning is the subject of the action. Visitors went to the farm. We talked about the fact that the subject of the sentence is visitors. Went describes the action. The team members ate several boxes of chocolate. Ate is the action. Sentences can have several verbs. Water boils at a consistent temperature and freezes at another. Boils is the first verb. Freezes is the second verb. The subject of the sentence is water. The sentence is about water. The second sentence, the ice tray fell out of my hand, skidded across the floor, and landed under the table. Fell skidded, landed. What's the subject of the sentence? The tray. Not ice tray, just tray. Here you have the answers to practice 18.4. In each of these sentences there's one action verb to underline, and in some of the sentences there are two action verbs. So for instance, in number 2, all the women live in Los Angeles and travel in wheelchairs. So you have both live and travel as your action verbs. And then number 4, they drive their own cars and pursue ambitious careers. Drive, pursue. What's the subject of the sentence? They. We're still talking about the women from the show Push Girls. Number 10, viewers admire these capable women and envy their fulfilling lives. Admire and envy. Those are your action verbs. What's the subject in that sentence? Viewers. Linking verbs. Some verbs don't show action, but rather link the subject to a description. Sylvia is an excellent student. Here we have a verb, is. It does not express an action. It just connects Sylvia to the fact that she's an excellent student. Sylvia has become very successful. That's a linking verb, connecting Sylvia to success. Look for forms of the verb to be. I am, you are, he is, she is, we are, you are, they are, as well as these verbs, seem, feel, appear, become, look. Those are all linking verbs. Here are the responses to practice 18.5. This is where you had to underline each of the linking verbs twice. So we're not looking for action here, we're just looking for little verbs like to be, to seem, become. They don't express action, they're just connecting the subject to another idea. So please check your responses against these responses. Subjects can come after verbs. Let's take a minute to identify the subject and verb in the sentence. Let's begin by identifying the prepositional phrase. So look at the first sentence. Here we have a preposition from. So this whole from the times, that's a prepositional phrase. We're going to cross that out. Look, we have another preposition in the sentence, in. So in the audience, that's a prepositional phrase. So that leaves us with 3 words, were 2 reviewers. Reviewers is the subject, were is the verb. Look at sentence number 2. We have for all the participants. For is a preposition. For all the participants. Let's cross out that whole prepositional phrase. There were name tags. So we have 4 words remaining. We know were. That's a linking verb. So we'll underline that twice. So then say to yourself, what were? Tags were. Tags is the subject. Were is the verb. Here and there are never subjects. They simply point to something.